I want to thank you for joining us again for another episode of Sermon Highlights. We're here with our pastor. Welcome back, Pastor.
Thank you.
We're in a new year.
Yes.
And the sermon that you preached today, the topic was
2023, count the cost.
Count the cost. Yes. So why don't you just give us the highlights of that, the main points. Yeah.
All right, sure will, Elva. Thanks so much. I wanted to start off this year with thinking about in 2023, we're going to make many resolutions, many goals, many aspirations for the year of trying to achieve maybe healthier living, better finances, better marriage, better family, better job, education. But in all these goals, we must sit down first with forethought, not afterthought, forethought. What will it take to achieve these goals? And so it considers time to evaluate, am I willing to make the necessary sacrifices to make the weight loss goal, the financial goals, the family goals, because you got to give up something you're currently doing, because if you keep doing what you're currently doing, you're going to end up with the same results. So you have to change. And so that change requires forethought, planning, consideration. And so I took that same consideration and looked at what Jesus said in Luke 14, 25 through 35, when he tells the disciples, count the cost. Count the cost to be his disciple. So my challenge was for everyone, if we're going to be a disciple, let's renew our commitment to being a disciple. And for those who haven't renewed or is not a disciple, let's make a decision to become a disciple. And so in that storyline, Jesus repeats in those 11 verses 3 times, you cannot be my disciple. You cannot be my disciple. You cannot be my disciples. And so I went back and let's look at these 3 times. One, he said, don't love your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your children, even your life more than you love me. That's what he said, you can't be my disciple. That's verse 26. Verse 27, he comes back and he says, if you're not willing to carry your cross, and in Matthew he says, carry it daily, you cannot be my disciple. And the third time was in verse 33, you cannot be my disciple if you're not willing to give up everything. And so I said, in order to be Christ's disciple, to put it on the positive end, we need to have supreme love for God, sacrificial service to him, or sacrificial living, carrying our cross. And then thirdly, I said, when Christ says you must be willing to give up everything, he says building a tower, going to war, consider it. But he says we must be willing to give up everything, complete surrender to Christ. So supreme love, sacrificial service, and complete surrender to Christ in order to be a disciple. And he says once you consider those factors, then we can move forward in being his disciple. Let's give God our all in 2023. Before we make all the other resolutions, let's make a resolution to be fully committed to Christ, to be a full disciple. Let's give him our all. Another point I wanted to make clear, that Christ requires our all. He's not an add-on, an addition to our life. He is our life. And that's what it takes to be a disciple. He's not like getting an app. You go to the app store and you get an app, and then the app has add-ons to it. For $5, you get this many months. For $10 a month, you get a full this edition. Or you pay the total price, you get all the features. He's not an add-on. Christ is the whole entire app. And that's what he wants. He needs our full surrender, supreme love for him, and sacrificial living. May God bless you in 2023 as you count the cost of discipleship. And remember, all he needs is your commitment and obedience to his will. His grace will take you through. Remember, his grace is made perfect. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. He says, my grace is sufficient. Remember, my brothers and sisters, stay encouraged. God is able. His grace is sufficient. Let's give him our all.
Amen. Total surrender for 2023.
That's it.
Thank you, Pastor, for coming back here and sharing the highlights.